You've probably seen pictures of people floating in water so buoyant you can lie back and read a book. This is the Dead Sea, and it is literally impossible to drown here. This is what it's really like to visit the Dead Sea and what you need to know. The Dead Sea is a salt lake located in the Middle East, almost 31 miles long and 9 miles wide, and it's most commonly visited in Jordan, being just 1 hour away from the capital city, Amman. Being so close to the capital, it's common to visit as an organised day trip, but for the most flexibility, we decided to hire a car and spend the night. Most people enter the Dead Sea at a resort, but most resorts offer a day pass, so you don't actually have to stay in one of the resorts to use the facilities. We've spent the night in the Astana Hotel in the town of Sweme, which is right on the northern edge of the Dead Sea. And if I peer around the corner of the balcony here, I can just about see the water. And then behind the Dead Sea, you've got some mountains, and those are actually in Palestine. That's the West Bank. The Dead Sea is right on the border between Jordan and Palestine. And you can't stand here without thinking about the inequality of how easy it was for us to travel over 3,000 miles quite spontaneously to get here, while people living just 9 miles away don't have the same access. So we have 3 items on today's agenda: floating in the salty water, checking out the salt formations, but first and foremost finding some tasty Jordanian food. And I have to tell you about this fantastic restaurant that we'd later call one of the best that we visited over our entire 2 weeks in Jordan. We've come to a restaurant called Beit Sweme, which was just up the corner from our hotel, but it's just happened to be a really well-rated restaurant, so we had to come and check it out.
It's actually incredible.
It's tasty, yeah.
This is nice. Oh, that dip's really nice. And it's actually run all by women as well. So we had a platter of a couple of different things, and they were all really very nice. Our first taste of Jordanian cuisine. So we definitely got lucky with this one. Now let's go for a swim. Besides the salinity of the water, the Dead Sea is also famous because it's actually the lowest point on Earth. We're currently 439 metres or 1,440 foot below sea level. It is incredibly hot down here at this altitude. That is the Dead Sea just there, which is one of the saltiest bodies of water. It is, I think, 35% salty, which is about 10 times more than you would expect the sea to be. I think the sea is around 3%, and we're about to go and swim in it. So in order to access the Dead Sea, we've come into a resort. We were hoping to go to one of the public beaches, but all the entrances seem to be blocked off, so we've come into this resort. But you do get quite a lot of amenities for it, so you just get a day pass. We paid 15 dinar for this. This resort that we're at is called Seagate. I don't know how it compares to the more fancy ones like the Hilton, but as far as we can tell, it's got everything that you would need. So you get access to the beach down there where you can go into the sea. There's showers down there. There's some sunbeds with shade as well, which is quite nice. You can do the mud treatment, and then up here in this area you have access to the rest of the resort facilities as well. There's a swimming pool just there, all this seating around here, and then you can use the changing rooms and the showers up here as well. And if you want, you can eat here. It was an extra 10 dinar for this resort if you want to have lunch. We chose not to because we've just eaten. Apparently you can just float on the Dead Sea without moving anything. Now I normally float anyway, so I don't know if this is going to be exciting, but Craig and Jake both typically sink, so it's exciting to see what's going to happen to them. Let's give this a go. Wow, the ground is so salty. Salt feels like a rock. Oh my gosh, I'm walking, but it's like, it's making me float when I can still touch the bottom. I'm floating. I can reach, but I'm floating. The weirdest sensation is trying to walk because it just lifts you up when you should be able to walk on the bottom. I've never had this much of my body out the water when I'm not touching the bottom before. I just can't go down.
Oh, didn't it?
I always float, but I've never floated this easy. This is the weirdest sensation. No way! It's literally impossible to drown.
Without getting my head in.
Oh gosh, I accidentally got a tiny splash of water. That is so salty. This is the edge of the beach, and the sand here is completely covered up with salt. So if I just grab a handful here, you can just see it's just salt. It's like a whole shelf here of salt. This is a rock of salt. This is the hardest thing, trying to swim. It's basically impossible to drown, but also impossible to swim because your feet just float out of the water when you try and kick, so you're just kicking air. Just can't swim. You have to do doggy paddle.
Eventually, we worked out that the best ways to swim while you're this buoyant are either by doing doggy paddle, which keeps your legs low enough underwater to prevent them from being fired out, or by sitting on your back and sculling with your arms.
This is the best stroke.
Yeah.
We've done the mud treatment, which we leave on for like 5 or so minutes until it dries, and then we'll go back into the salty water to wash it off. Here's the third mud monster. Craig is floating and he almost always just sinks, so it's really weird. I don't think I've ever seen him float before. It's so hard to balance because it's just trying to lift you up.
One thing to note if you're coming here and you're female and you're wondering whether to go to a resort or a public beach is that it's generally not acceptable to wear a bikini on a public beach here in Jordan, but it is generally accepted within a resort.
The beach is really sharp here, the salt is really sharp, so I would advise wearing flip-flops or water shoes. So weird. Every time I move my legs as I'm walking, I'm just like bobbing.
I think this is the closest you'll get to the feeling of walking in space.
We've all read that you shouldn't shave 48 hours before going in the Dead Sea because it causes micro-cuts that will sting like crazy with this much salt. We've all followed that advice, but I can confirm
I've got a small cut on my hand and it really stings.
the reason that this body of water is called the Dead Sea is because it's so salty that almost no life can survive in this water. While we could have quite happily spent the entire day enjoying the feeling of weightlessness, it's recommended that you don't spend more than around 15 minutes in the water due to the extreme salinity which can dry out your skin.
Careful not to get your face in the water.
And of course we couldn't leave the Dead Sea without attempting to get the classic photos trying to read a book while floating. And I've got to say, with this much buoyancy, it really is a piece of cake, and I didn't have any worries about the book getting wet. If you do go to a resort with a swimming pool, I encourage you to take a dip afterwards and really compare how the Dead Sea feels compared to a normal amount of buoyancy. And it is also quite nice to soak up all the salt that sticks to your skin. Once we'd had our fill of floating, we drove down to the southern end of the Dead Sea to check out some of the viewpoints and salt formations.
We've just found this little hut on the side of the road selling freshly squeezed orange juice, and it is very good. And there's also beach access down here as well if you don't want to go to a resort. Look at this, we've found some springs. The Dead Sea is receding at a rate of about 1 metre per year, and if you look at it over here, the water is quite far away, but over here where I am, you've got evidence of the salt that's been left behind. The texture on the floor is super interesting. This salt is super like shiny, the rest of the salt's all been like really kind of spiky. There's loads of these massive chunks of salt, nothing but salt. You can really see the texture of the salt here. It's kind of got this like crystal-like texture. I've never seen anything like this before. These are some rocks that are made out of salt. Looks like this is a popular photo spot. We've got this group over here, some more over here, some more over here. Some people walking back up.
It's sad to see that there is quite a lot of litter around here.
I really feel like I'm walking on the moon, walking on all this salt. But then over here you've got these red rocks, which is like Mars. Just stumbled across a bright pink lake. I don't know what actually makes this pink. Nice reflection. Over here we've got a bit of orange. Super bright pink over here.
And with the sun setting, we said goodbye to the Dead Sea. But this is just the beginning of our 2 weeks in Jordan. So we'll see you next time at one of the 7 wonders of the world.
And we're the only people here.